A warm welcome to the show. Last Castle, Castle-ness in Poland is a new exhibition in Warsaw, opening near the Royal Castle. It explores a unique phenomenon in Poland, a boom in castle building and a broader fascination with castle-like features. Joining us in the studio is Kuba Snopek, the exhibition's curator. Hello and welcome, delighted to have you with us.
Glad to be here, thank you.
So you not only put together an exhibition, but you also wrote a book about this. So could you tell us what is Castle-ness?
I edited the book. There is a multitude of authors in the book which are exploring Castle-ness. In general, a castle is something that is very strongly connected with the past. It comes from the Middle Ages. And therefore, the vast majority of researchers that work with castles are historians, art historians, architecture historians, and I'm very much interested in the present. What does a castle mean for us today? And therefore I needed to create a special word, Castle-ness, which means something that looks like a castle or feels like a castle, or you can experience it as a castle, but doesn't necessarily need to be a real, authentic relic from the Middle Ages. It can be quite a new construction.
So let's try with a case study, because the exhibition is housed in the palace with a thin roof, the Royal Castle. So how legitimate is the Royal Castle as a castle?
Well, the Royal Castle is a paradox. It is a legitimate castle. It did exist in history. There were a lot of things, like important historical things that had happened in this castle. The constitution, the kings, all of it is connected. But then it was destroyed in 1944 and it had to be rebuilt. So it is both a historical object and a building from the 1970s. And of course, the most important features of it have been reconstructed historically with a lot of historical research, and it's been done accurately. But still, it's a building from the 1970s.
So would you agree with a statement that Poles, in general, do like castles? And if so, then why?
I think that Poles do like castles. The thing that is really striking for me is that we can find castles that have been reconstructed by the state, like the Royal Castle, by the communist government, like the Royal Castle, by the right-wing people, by the left-wing people, by the, cities and towns, and also by private individuals. So it's one of the things that I think is very strongly connected to our culture. We as Poles like castles, rather than with, politics or your idea about how the world should be organized. I think this is quite a universal thing for Poland. And why do we like castles? I think that there are so many answers. In the book, I have, 15 authors, and everybody is giving a little bit different answer. Some of the people say that this is because of history, that in the 19th century, Poles were trying to rebuild or reclaim the Wawel Castle in Krakow, and this was like a beginning of our love to castles. The others say, no, this is because of the 16th, 17th century. The others say, no, this is because of the trauma of the war, and we are trying to rebuild them. So I think that it's a very complex thing, a very complex symbol, and a very complex also relationship that we have with the castles, and this is what makes this research interesting.
So can modern architecture use elements of medieval architecture effectively? Is it possible to sort of incorporate that?
I mean, this is another paradox of this castle, because modern architecture cannot build a castle. A castle and modern architecture are completely separate. They're so separate that people who build castles, they're trying to avoid having other buildings around. They're trying to build it in nature, next to the lake, so that there is no situation where something that looks like a castle stands to something that's like entirely modern, because this eventually will feel ironic or weird. So I think that there is no possibility for, let's say, a marriage between modern architectural language and the language of a castle. On the other hand, I think that castles are still quite valid because they are more like visual messages. They are more like a visual language. They are more like symbols in space than actual buildings. It's not really that important what is inside. In contemporary architecture, the most important thing is function. Form follows function. How do you really set up all these relationships between different spaces, and how pragmatic is a building, how well you can use it. And with castle, the thing that is really, really important is the image. The function is very often an afterthought. Let's build a castle and then we're going to see what we can actually fit there.
So let's zoom in on one controversial castle that is still under construction here in Poland, and I'm talking about Stobnica Castle that is being built in a Nature 2000 preserved area. What do you think about this development?
Yes, everybody is criticizing it because of all the sins. It was built in an area where it shouldn't have been built. It's not clear if it was built legally. I completely agree with this criticism. However, I think that it's also very important to see that somebody decided to do it, although it was so controversial. So the urge to have a castle, to build a castle, is actually, so strong that you're committing all these sins and you're doing it. Well, I do have my opinion, but I will not share it with you. I think that as a curator of this project, I should be neutral, or as neutral as possible. I think that what is really interesting about this castle is that it was really well executed. On the architectural level, I think there is no other new castle that was designed with so much thought and precision. Architecturally, I think it reminds me much more of architecture of the 19th century rather than medieval architecture. This is, I think, something that is happening all over the world, that the thinking about architecture from the 19th century, when architecture was built to create identity, that this thinking is coming back. It's coming back in the United States, of course, in the United Kingdom, but also in Poland in form of castles.
So the exhibition also features children drawings, right? And sort of they have a very clear picture of how a castle should look like. And why is that, do you think?
It's for different reasons. The first reason is that a castle is a very complex symbol. And especially in Poland, because the royal castle in Warsaw is a symbol of the destruction of war and revival after the war. It's a very sad and traumatic symbol. But in reality, a castle is everything from being a monument and a symbol of a state and border and whatever, to being a symbol of joy and childhood. For everybody, it's something else. When I think about a castle, my first thought is building a sandcastle at the Baltic Sea. And for somebody else, the first thought would be the symbol of statehood. So we decided to start the exhibition with something which is, it has less pathos and is less monumental and is more, democratic and more mundane in a way. So we started with how children imagine castles. And I think it's very interesting because it appears we have this archetype in our minds from the very first years. When I was a child and I was drawing a castle, I would actually draw something very similar to what the children have drawn, only probably worse quality, because these works are amazing. So I think it's a very interesting question, how early this archetype is actually being introduced in your life, and something like this actually stays, and people who are grown up are still having this childhood memory and this idea that a castle is something important.
And the exhibition also features photos by Nicolas Grospierre. Why is it important for artists to talk about architecture?
I come from the world of architecture, and I believe that artists and photographers, they have a fantastic eye, and they're really good at interpreting what is going on in the architectural world. The architects are also good at it, but sometimes they're too busy building things. So we do have 3 photographers at the exhibition. Nicolas Grospierre is one of them. He created these huge portraits of the most important castles, in my opinion. And all of them are authentic to a different degree. So the person who's coming to the exhibition has to really look for this authenticity, and you don't know what is an illusion and what is truth anymore. Then there is Mateusz Pawlukiewicz, which has presented a series of, he calls it the architecture of fortified Poland. These are very small castles that are built by private individuals. These are like one family homes and ice cream parlors and other structures like this, which are made look more castle-like with some elements. And then there is a third photographer, Marta Eismond. She did a series about the reconstructions. So she went to the castles which have been just reconstructed lately, and she made the photos of them so that we could see the materiality, and all of them look brand new, which I think is also very interesting. And at the end, we also have the artists from the collective called Turnus from here in Warsaw. These are young artists already with a lot of experience, and they have actually built a castle. So the last castle at the exhibition is the castle that Turnus has built. It's the interpretation by contemporary critical artists of the idea of castle-ness.
So let's zoom in on these small private castles. They are fascinating to people. Why so, do you think?
Well, I think that part of it is what I have just said before, that whenever you build a castle next to something new, it looks paradoxical and ironic, and people like irony. So this series of photographs is actually, it is ironic, and it is looking at us, at Poland, at I don't know, what we built with a little bit of distance. So we are not being entirely serious in here. But on the other hand, these are really good photographs, and I think that they were created in such a way that you can really look at these structures and find a lot of details, and look how carefully people, the owners, have created this this image of a castle, putting a cannon somewhere and creating crenellations, etc. I think it's very, it's part of the exhibition where you can really spend some time looking at it and looking for more and more details.
So can something be bad in terms of architecture, I mean tacky, and still make good art? I'm talking about a photo of this.
I think that tacky architecture makes perfect photos. I think that I think in general that paradoxes are interesting. Like whenever something is perfect, it's not really interesting. We can see this, for example, with text generated by artificial intelligence. They are perfect, and it's very difficult to read them. There's no texture. So I think that yes, architects, of course, are always trying to make their buildings perfect, but from the point of view of a person who is really looking at this and trying to find an angle, the ones that are not perfect, they might be more interesting.
Definitely. So what would you like viewers to take away from this exhibition?
I think that the message of the exhibition is quite serious. I think that the exhibition is very much about design, about the fact that the environment around us has been designed, and many people have really taken design decisions to tell a story. A castle is a tool of visual storytelling. It's telling us about the identity, about the history, about who we are and where we come from. And typically, when we walk around the city or drive across the country, we register architecture, but we don't really notice it. So this story is coming to us without us noticing. So I think that the main message is, look, a lot of things are true, but there's a lot of illusion as well. There's a lot of authenticity, but there's also a lot of lie in architecture. Beware, because this has been designed, and these buildings have owners, and they are doing it intentionally in order for you to read a very specific story.
That's very interesting. And I know you said that you want to be neutral, but I do have to ask you about this. Do you have your favorite castle in Poland?
I actually do have my favorite castle in Poland. It's not in the exhibition, and it's not really in the book. It's called Czocha. It's in Lower Silesia, which is my region where I come from. And what I really like about it, it's quite compact. It's not like the largest castle, but it has all the castle-like features. It was redesigned in the 19th century, so it's like very compact and very perfect emanation of the castle-ness.
Kuba Snopek, thank you so very much for joining us. Much appreciated.
Thank you very much.
And thank you for watching Pulse of Culture. Please stay tuned for more here on TVP World.